Hi, it's Kiffin Bates here. So I thought I would give a quick primer on DAGs, or directed acyclic graphs, using the blockchain terminology, so you can kind of draw equivalences and differences between the two systems. So a DAG is like the blockchain chain with a few fundamental differences. So the first difference is that in a DAG, each block actually only contains one transaction. So effectively you don't talk about blocks, you just talk about transactions. So that's the first thing. Now, because every block is just one transaction, it's not feasible to do proof of work in order to add transactions to the DAG, because there's just too many transactions coming in. It's too much work. It just spreads everything thinly, and you would end up with the system actually being very easy to subvert. So you can't use proof of work in order to secure a DAG. The next big difference is the fact that, unlike blockchain, where each block connects only to one previous block, and so you end up with a linear, one-dimensional chain of packaged transactions, in a DAG, any transaction can be hooked onto any previous transaction. So you end up with this sort of web of connections. Some people describe it like a sort of a cable of fibers being all wrapped around, where you pick any particular thread that's poking out and you follow it into the cable around, and eventually it'll go back to the beginning of the DAG, the sort of genesis transaction. So there's another similarity. In blockchain you have the genesis block. In DAGs you have the genesis transaction, but they both perform the same function, which is to provide a starting point and an anchoring point for everything that follows. Next big difference is that in blockchain the blocks are generated at a sort of a fairly standard rate. For example, in Bitcoin it's once every 10 minutes or so, but it can vary because there's a probabilistic effect due to the fact that proof of work terminates roughly around about the 10-minute mark, but it could go on for 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes, or it could happen within seconds of the previous block being made. On average it comes in at 10 minutes. In DAGs, transactions can be submitted anytime you like. It's no longer important to have this regular addition of packages of transactions. You just submit the transaction, and the transaction itself directly hooks in to a previous transaction, and that forms the link back to the genesis block. So those are the kind of structural differences between DAGs and blockchains, and in the next video I'll talk a bit more about why you have to do different stuff to secure a DAG compared to securing a blockchain. Bye for now.